But anyway, moving on. Um, so we get into looking at Officer Nick Jacoby, who is Joel Edgerton. Who's been in a couple of good movies of late. A guy that I look to see more and more of. But he pops up. Another reason why this reminds me of Training Day. He comes to pick Will Smith up at his house, and he's kind of like the junior partner in the buddy cop relationship. Obviously, Will Smith is black. Joe Egerton, even though he's this alien, it still puts me in the frame of mind of Training Day. And like I said, Will Smith's cop is he's a more experienced officer. Um, so they have to set that up. What's the problem with the orcs? Again, more Hollywood tricks. If you look at it, the only people that have a problem who express their differences or their dislike for the orc, who is the only orc in law enforcement in the United States. But the only officers that give him a hard time that actually go out of their way to make the guy feel uncomfortable are portrayed by white officers, white male officers. So again, it's playing these age old sides against one another to push this story. So it's part of the reason why I develop a problem or dislike while I'm watching this movie. Also, Margaret Cho, she's the sergeant in the police force. I don't think she doesn't really care for the orc, but she just tolerates his presence. There is another female. It may have been a Latina that may have said something to the orc. I can't remember that part that well, but again, they mainly chose to show the white officers who had a problem and who really wanted to get rid of the orc. Moving along, number 3. Early in the movie, there's this homeless guy that Will and Joel Egerton they get a call to go get this guy. He's swinging a sword in the middle of the street. I think he's a pretty tall guy, very dirty, disheveled hair, what have you, a streetwalker basically. It's this build up like this scene is getting ready to be something major, and it's not. It's nothing. The guy doesn't even put up a fight. Again, this traffic scene and everything, the community that you're seeing around this area is all from Training Day. Like this yellow sign that they drove by when he's telling Hoyt about work on your Spanish. Same scenery. And then when they stopped traffic in front of everything, although Hoyt and Alonzo they stopped traffic in the middle of an intersection for a different reason, it was still conflict. So again, Training Day. But anyway, this guy, this human being, speaks Orcish or whatever they call the dialogue to while he's in the back seat of the cruiser. He speaks Orcish to the orc police officer. He says some important stuff, basically saying that your partner is something special about your partner. And he says some other things about the forces that are at play that not everybody knows about. This dude is kind of an important part in the movie. You never really see him again. They take him to the police station. They hold him, and then later on in the movie, this federal group that's investigating. It's like a task force for orcs and elves and magic, because basically they're all trying to get to this magic wand that I just mentioned in the synopsis. Excuse me. So this task force hears about some stuff going on in Los Angeles, and they come and they end up talking to this guy. But the character is never really used again. And there's points later in the movie where Will Smith and Joel Edgerton They've secured the wand. They don't know what the hell they're doing with it. They don't know what to do. And it seems like you would want them, I mean, that they need to go speak to this man who knew what was going on, and he's at the police station, but that never happens. So this, again, this is just a poor execution of the script and how everything is tied together. I thought that was an area where they dropped the ball. Four. So soon after that, we kind of get into the thick of the movie, to the meat of the script. And I hate that I've already went on as long as I have. Wanted this to be 10 minutes. But anyway, again, you know the motto of the Pay Me No Mind show is that you don't have to be great to start. You have to start to be great. So we'll cut these down in the future. I did have to set up a few things, and I did give you some other information at the beginning. But let's look at this. So once we get into the meat of the plot, things just get off track really quickly. And I just made a couple of sub notes on why. So this horrible situation happens where they go on this call. Will Smith and Joel Edgerton, they respond to this call. And they encounter a building with a lot of weird stuff going on. Somebody across from the main building that's in the movie the whole time, somebody across from them shoots down at them. Now I'm getting a little confused how I remember that part. But anyway, there's some gunfire. Will Smith and Edgerton end up inside this structure, and it's some weird female, some different kind of elf, that's hanging on the wall that somebody is like using to draw power from, or she's captured somehow. Okay. But they come back out of that, they call for backup. And for this, how the rest of the team even ends up on site is just silly. The sergeant is there, Margaret Cho, and then the other 3 officers who wanted to get rid of the orc from the beginning. Prior to this, if I back up for just a second, the other thing how they convolute the script is that Internal Affairs, before this had even happened, before they responded to this call, Internal Affairs had given Will Smith a bug or a tape recorder to where they're looking to get information on the orc to get him off of the police force. This is another thing that's unnecessarily complicating the movie. And then let me back it all up. I forgot about this. There was a part where, before the movie starts, Will Smith is recovering from being shot with a shotgun, I believe, by an orc while he was waiting outside for his partner to get some food. He was leaning up against his cruiser, and a orc comes out of the corner store or bodega, not sure what they call them in California, but he shoots Will Smith in the chest. His partner chases that orc down, and they go down an alley, but he can't figure out where he went. I'll leave it there. That's the image that keeps replaying the first hour of the movie. Something happened though in that situation where Internal Affairs wants to pin something on Joe Edgerton, that he didn't run down this orc. Now we get back to this scene where the 4 officers show up, one being Margaret Cho, and the orc is outside with this elf that's kind of like in distress. He's sitting outside with this female elf. The 4 officers are inside the structure, and the decision is made that, well, they realize that elf has this wand on him, a magical wand. So that's why the other cops come to the scene. So they want the power of this wand, but humans can't touch it. Only brights can touch it, I believe. A bright, which is the name of the movie. it's a little complicated. So the decision is made that we need to get rid of the elf. I mean, we need to get rid of the orc police officer, which nobody liked anyway. So that's how they justify it to Will, that we're gonna get rid of him. We're gonna keep the elf, and we're probably gonna kill. I mean, we're gonna keep the wand and probably kill the elf. This whole thing just we've been here before, but Will goes outside. He says, "I'll do it." So he leaves to go outside and confronts his partner. He takes his time. The other four police officers come out to see what's going on or to push the situation along. Of course, Will Smith's not going to do his partner. So he does amazingly. He opts to do all four police officers. And from here it just goes off track. So Will Smith turns around and shoots some fancy gunplay. He takes out all four of his partners or fellow officers before anything can happen. And then he tells the orc, we're gonna take our this new elf. We're gonna take her to the office. We gotta sort all. Actually, he can't even go back to the office. He just throws his whole life away with no plan in place. But they have this wand. And the reason that they wanted the wand is because apparently you can do anything that you want to do with the wand. You can make anything happen, blah blah blah. But they don't know how to use it. It takes certain spells to get it to do anything. So they never really dig into this, but we're just rolling along. So anyway, as they get ready to take the girl to go figure out what they're gonna do, the gangbangers come out. And again, training day. It's a house on top of a big hill, like when Alonzo took Hoyt into the house to be terminated. Same house, same situation. They come down off the hill, down the stairs. A group approaches Smith and Egerton and the elf, and they want the wand. Training day. So yeah, so the gang, tattoos, the whole gang banger look. The thing that's weird here is that Felipe Lobos, Jefe from Power, pops up in the middle of the movie. Actor Enrique Murciano, who starred for 2 seasons, Felipe Lobos on Power. I thought all of his little movements and his little overacting was what I thought it was. That's apparently how he acts. And the dude is doing the same thing in this role right here. I believe his character's name is Poison. And so Poison is like, look, we're not letting you leave with that wand. And he's in a wheelchair. He's obviously been paralyzed, messing around in the streets. So he wants the wand because he wants to walk again. That's how he wants to use the wand. So it's a shootout. I'm almost done. They jump in the truck. Egerton, Smith, the girl, they jump in the police vehicle. I believe they had a truck to get away. But then at this point, this other more powerful elf, female elf, with all kind of powers and strength and fighting skills, she has a small unit with her where they're obviously chasing down the wand for their use. Of course, the female elf that's with Egerton and Smith, she's less, powerful looking. She's half out of it, half in it. You know, so apparently the wand can only get so far away from this other female elf who was Naomi Rapace. I know I'm probably saying her name wrong. But so as they get to the edge of how far they can go away from her, they get into a huge crash because like some force smashes the front of the police vehicle and they're then put on foot. And then Here's, like I said, here's where the whole movie just goes off track. If you could imagine two, three people, limited firepower, they're damaged, a lot of blood. They've been in this crash. Um, they can only do so much, and they have to get out of the city limits. I mean, just why? Uh, so anyway, they're chasing. So Poison and the Mexican gang, they give chase. They're on foot, and he's in a wheelchair. But anyway, they get all over the place, all over this neighborhood, chasing down Will Smith and Egerton and the other. I think her name is Tika. So being that they're kind of like on foot in this unknown territory or hostile territory, it just creates these moments of deadness in the script. It seems like some of this stuff is improvised, and I'm gonna try to wrap up these last 2 points. But there's a club shootout where Will Smith and Egerton and the female elf go into this. It's like biker boys or something, but they go into this club where all of the orcs hang out, and it's kind of their world. They play their music. It's heavy metal, and then a gunfight ensues as the gangbangers show up. Poison, he's still chasing them, and it just reminds me of Collateral Damage. If you remember the gunfight scene. Now these scenes can happen in any movie, but it just seems how cliched some of the ideas are to move the story along. So anyway, there's another scene after that at a gas station where um, we finally see the real power of the female. I mean, the other female elf, Naomi Rapace's character, and her two or three henchmen that are with her. Skipping along, so now we'll jump to the ultimate training day scene. Egerton and Will Smith are in like this cathedral for the orcs, and they have like a main orc dude who's controlling the city, the underworld, and he knows what's going on. He wants the wand. The wand is on them, and they go through like 15 minutes of talk and dialogue. They're on their knees. They've been roughed up. They've been beat up by this gang, and the whole time he's asking for this wand, and it's right in this bag that they brought in with him that he could have just went in and got. It's stupid. It really is poorly done. But anyway, the training day part is, and I won't even give away some of the magic in this part, but the real training day part here is, as you watch this unfold, that gang leader wants this younger orc, smaller orc, to get his first kill. So because they won't give him the wand, he tells him come over here and do the orc. I think they called it blooded. Was like this coming of age process. So this younger orc, walks around with his gun to get ready to do um, Joe Egerton's character first. Of course, they've been beat on. They have their one-liner responses that we're not, even though we're helpless in this situation, we're not scared. The kid comes over to do Joel Egerton, and of course, this young orc is the orc that Joel Egerton saved earlier in the movie in the alleyway. When Joel Egerton chased the orc that shot Will Smith in the chest, when he chases him around the corner and loses him, he runs into this younger orc who was just hanging out in the alley. Again, remember Alonzo in the alley. No, remember Hoyt fighting the crackheads in the alley in Training Day? Here we are again. It's Training Day with orcs in it and elves. I could have saved you all this time. But anyway, Egerton, he knew that when the police showed up, if he had this kid in handcuffs, that the police would have served justice on the street. So he helps this orc escape. Now here, an hour later, in this cathedral where he's getting ready to die, of course the young kid cannot shoot him because he realizes this is the orc police officer, is the only one in the country who saved his life earlier in the day, or earlier in the movie, and I can't make this stuff up. So let me see. So I'm saving you some of the details here in case you want to watch it. Let's get to this last scene. The final scene is where things become even further. They make even less sense. We just see a lot of great stunts, uh, but of course it boils down to Egerton, the female elf who's dying. Which again, they could have went and talked to the homeless guy that's in jail, who seemed to know about these different forces and armies that are at play, and never went and checked him out. And never, I guess, because they didn't have a vehicle. But the other orc that's left is, I mean, the other elf that's left is the more powerful female, who's been like an assassin, the whole time. This super warrior, Wonder Woman elf, and the elf. I mean, the elf that's with Smith and Egerton. She's like dying and bleeding out. They don't really explain why. They put her in some water that's with some tree or something in it to rejuvenate her. And then between Joel Egerton and Will Smith, somebody can do something that you didn't know they could do at the beginning of the movie. That's Hollywood. I mean, that's how we resolve everything. That's the big climax. Um, Again, just executed very. If you like it, you like it. The final scene, the very final scene. Of course, it really should have just ended there. Once certain people come out to the, and you do know the sequel's already been greenlit, even though media, I mean, critics have panned the film. Apparently, it was reported last week. I think I mentioned this on the podcast that the new movie, I mean, the sequel is already in the works. But they, certain people survive at the end, and it was like the normal scene where they leave in the ambulance. They should have just done that. No, they couldn't do that. They have to do the scene with them in the hotel. I mean, with them in the hospital, and the leader of the federal elf task force, or wand task force, he finally meets. This how helpful these guys were. They never even made it into any of the fights, the major fights. They were chasing clues the whole time. But anyway, there's just another 5 or 10 minutes that go on where the orc, Joel Egerton, is trying to. It's more humor, and now they need to make the cover up. This scene was just so unnecessary, and it's another scene where it seems like it was improvised. That elf just goes ahead. That this chief elf or special agent elf, he kind of agrees to overlook the story. We'll cover it up. It should have ended right there. No, it doesn't end again. Then they go to a medal, an award ceremony where they put a medal on Smith and Egerton. And it's this big presentation and a speech about everybody needing to work together and accept one another, blah, blah, blah. Uh, I guess at this point it kind of veers away from Training Day. But again, just a lot of familiar parts from other movies that we've already seen. Um, check it out. That's all I'm gonna say. Again, for me, 2.5, 2.5 stars out of 5. I will say that I wouldn't watch it again. That's mainly because it's on Netflix, so I would actually have to select it to watch it again. Whereas if it was on HBO or one of the premium channels and it was just coming on, maybe I catch it in the middle and I try to understand what I didn't understand the first time, or I just watch it. But to sit down and actually go on Netflix and select to watch it again, I wouldn't do that. So again, thanks for checking out my breakdown of Bright. Sorry it ran so long. It's kind of a podcast on an off week. Please subscribe to the channel. In the future, we'll cut these down to make them 10 minutes or 7 minutes or something. My bad. Again, take care until next time.